Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Abundant Living. We're happy to have you here with us. We've been journeying through the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. This is our last week. If you're following along in the book, we're on the chapter, The Principle of Slowing. If you've missed the previous weeks, there'll be links below this video. You can hop on and take a look. If you're loving this video, you're enjoying walking through with us, please like the video, give us a comment down below so we can interact with you. It's the only way we know that you've joined us. It encourages us and it gets the video pushed out to more and more people. So love to have you do that. If you're enjoying the material, please go ahead and subscribe and click that bell so that you receive notifications. We've been running live on MeWe.com. The page is Today's Abundant Living with Holly Smith. This will be the last week of that. So if you're catching us live, that's great. If you're not catching us live, that's okay. Comment on YouTube and we'll chime in. So we're going to get started. I'm here today with Miriam Shumaker.
Hello.
Joy Whitman.
Hi.
And I'm Holly Smith. It's great to have you here. And today we're talking about the fourth of four principles that John Mark Comer shares, helping us to draw closer to Jesus, as he puts it, to apprentice under Jesus. And this principle today is slowing. So ladies, thoughts on this?
Well, he summarizes even at the very beginning of the chapter, within the first couple of pages, he just talks about the basic idea behind the practice of slowing is slow down your body and slow down your life. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not a rocket science kind of principle. If you slow everything down, then that's kind of what it means. You're slowing. You're taking the time. Taking the time to appreciate is really what the basics of it all is.
And contrary to what many of us have been taught, you don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
You stop and you consider, is this an activity, first of all, that God wants me involved in? Mm-hmm. Is this an activity that I can do without stressing myself and thereby acting stressful and maybe a little unkind with those around me? What John Mark says, we achieve true inner peace when our schedules are aligned with our values. Mm-hmm. So we have to stop and say, what are my values? And we have to ask God, what do you want those values to be? Mm-hmm. What are they? And then really assess that we do by whether or not that fits into what our values are, what our God-given values are. And I have heard people express sort of the zero calendar concept, where instead of looking at your life and saying, okay, what can I eliminate to get things under control? You start from a blank calendar. Mm-hmm. And then you ask God, what things need to be filled in here? What things do you want me to add?
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, right.
And I've in previous sessions talked about the book Margin by Richard Swenson. And I love that book and that concept. He talks about, margin, and in finance, we don't spend everything we make, right? We tithe first, is a biblical principle. And then, we save a certain amount, and with our time as well, to have that margin. Mm-hmm. And margin is, extra space. It's just like the margin on a sheet of paper around the edges. Why do we need margin around a document? Because it makes it more readable. It makes it more, available for reading. Same thing with our life. We even if we didn't have crises, which they do come, mm-hmm. we still need margin in our life, and then life happens.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. When you have that margin, it allows that cushion of time and space to, when things do come up, then you're not over stressing yourself because I already have this on my calendar. I already have this going on. Well, if you allow yourself that bit of margin in your life, then you're able to say, yeah, you know what, I can do that. As long as it does go along with the your values and your principles and what you're able to say yes to.
Right.
Yep, I have that time for that, or, I can do that. Or,
Right.
no, sorry, I can't,
Right.
Yeah. And I love those times of margin where you can, it's unplanned, it's open. And so you can say to God, what would you have me do with this time? Do you just want me to spend it with you?
right.
Is there someone that you would put on my heart that I need to help and bless today?
Mhm.
And a lot of ministry can flow out of that margin time. You don't have to fill it, but you stop and
True, right.
I have
Right.
said a number of times about your life, Miriam. I don't know how you work but you seem to always have that space.
Mm.
You seem to always have that space.
And it takes practice,
Mhm.
to make that space, to make sure you have that space,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A firm commitment not to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
I think, I read the book Margin, not that I run my life on every book I read, but the Lord does bring books into our path that if we apply the principles, they can be life-changing, prayerfully in Christ, obviously. And the book Margin, out of that book, I made a lot of changes, and it was years ago. And I think I pulled in Margin, which allowed for space so that when things came up but this book has convicted me in a different way for margin, the need for a lot more margin than I even thought. I've talked about we've incorporated out of 7 days, a 24-hour chunk, but the life it's breathing into us and the more space, we talked last week about simplicity and not having so many things to maintain and to think about, just the mind space that takes and really being in the moment. And I know there's a lot of secular talk about, being in the moment, but that was Jesus first. That was his thing first. And just really being convicted and have been working toward, have a long way to go, but working toward really feeling the need to have more margin for that space, like you just mentioned, Miriam, of, Lord, what do you have for me today in a bigger way? Like me, it would be, all right, when I go to the grocery store, what do you have for me? When I go here, what do you have for me? What about, I don't have anywhere I'm going, what do you have for me? Just really broadening out that space.
And sometimes it's okay to have that space be the Lord come back and say, nothing. I have nothing for you. And this is your time to breathe. And that's why this particular chapter of slowing is kind of forcing you to have that understanding of, what, I do need to slow down. I do need to have this margin. I do need to have this, in my life, because there are times, many times, that there is just nothing that for you to be doing during that space and time. And and I love, I mean he has 20 principles and 20 practices that he talks about, and some I agreed with, some I'm like, really?
Yeah
But
he says it, take what works for you.
Which let me say this too as a caveat to the whole book. He is very often throughout the whole book, and I love, he is the type of author that says, look, this is what works for me.
Yes.
No judgment if this is the way you are. It's just, here, I'm putting this out there, and if it's something that speaks to you, great. If not, move on. And I like authors like that, because they don't, it's convicting enough to read some of the principles and things that biblical, that you really should seriously think about in your life, without the author even saying, you got to do this or else your life is going to be crummy.
Right.
So I do like his approach to a lot of this.
Right. At the same time, even though he doesn't tell, you don't have to do exactly as I do, I like that he gives us a lot of practical to-dos.
Yeah.
To kind of
right. Which is what this chapter in particular is really focused on. I mean, he even talked right from the very beginning. He talks about, let's start with something we do, driving a car. I drive the speed limit. Contraband. Come to a full stop at stop signs. Don't text and drive, which, should be a pretty obvious one.
Yeah.
It's just the simple task of what we do every day, because he even talks about it here. He lives in Seattle, which he bikes a lot of places. You know, but that's just something that we take for granted, that's just a part of our daily lives, is we get in the car and go somewhere. In fact, where was I recently? We're talking, on our trip, you know, in everywhere in Europe, they walk. Because we're all in big cities too, so that makes it a little different. But they don't have cars, and they walk at them. You know, a good majority of the people, they just walk everywhere.
Yeah.
So that would be one way to slow down.
And you have to have time for that. Jim and I have on my bike, I have a basket and saddlebags, and I can easily bicycle to the grocery store. It's a little bike ride, but I love to do it. What stops me from doing it, well, in the winter stops me from doing it.
Yeah.
But in the fall and spring and the summer, what stops me from doing it is, I don't really have enough time for that.
Yeah. It's easier to just jump in the car, run up there, put the stuff in your trunk, and get home.
Get it done.
Yeah.
I like this principle too. He talks about our apprenticeships to Jesus have to be whole person endeavors, mind and body. So a lot of what we've talked about in these other principles, you know, we've talked about slowing down our calendar, slowing down our mind, but he talks about physically. This is about physically slowing down our body. So you're slowing down your mind, you're focusing on the Lord, but physically making, you know, and they talk about muscle memory with a lot of different things. So we're creating a muscle memory of being slower.
Right. Which is what I kind of alluded to in the, you know, early part of this week, is that it takes practice. It takes intentionality.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. He says, and if we can slow down both the pace at which we think and the pace at which we move our bodies through the world, maybe we can slow down our souls to a pace at which they can taste and see that the Lord is good and that life in his world is good too.
Right. Yeah.
I like it. I have a tendency to, I think I said before, I used to be a proponent of Margot, and then I have had a tendency to move quick, get things done. And then with the 3.5 years with my mom, I just, out of necessity, everything was fast. And this has been a purposeful effort, and I love it. I really like it. I find myself speeding up sometimes, and I slow down, like, where are you rushing to?
Yeah. Right.
What's the rush? Yeah.
Very true.
I liked when you had mentioned, he talked about getting in the slower checkout line. And I liked what he said in this, we had done, Miriam was part of this, and another gal, Julie, we did 40 days of fasting and prayer back last April. And we talked about part of fasting was denying the flesh. It's good for us. You know, there's like a little spoiled child in us, which we call the flesh. And it's good for us to discipline that spoiled child. And he talks about some of these things. He says, but here's the deeper motivation. It's wise to regularly deny ourselves from getting what we want, whether through practices as intense as fasting or as minor as picking the longest checkout line. We don't have to get our way to be happy.
Yeah.
That's a good discipline.
And back to the fasting and prayer, while you're standing in that longer line, just think how many people you could pray for.
Yeah. Right.
And talk to.
Yeah.
It's always been amazing to me that I can stand within inches of another human being and just say nothing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's my personality. I know.
Yeah. I was going to say, not everybody can do that, because that's not really, you know, a lot of times, and you know, it's funny because I'm kind of the school. I let people start talking first.
Okay.
And then you can kind of tell during those first few sentences how much chemistry you're going to have to continue.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's, but I'm rarely the starter. Rarely. Yeah.
Me
I'm
either.
the one who stands in front or behind you in line and talks to you about what's in your card, or I'm that one.
That's funny.
Boy, you got a lot of sugar in there.
No, I don't do that. I don't do that. No. Oh, no.
That pop back is bad for you.
What are you doing with that in your car? No. I don't do that. No.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
had friends that have walked bags of chocolate in my cart.
You need more.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's fine. Love it. What about number 7? He names, I guess it was what,
Yeah.
with 20 some different things. And what about number 7? Turn your smartphone into a dumb phone.
Well, I can honestly say I would never be able to do that. Both of those principles, I just can't. The ideas are fantastic.
Yeah.
I just know I can't do it. I just couldn't. It has a good point, and he really does have some of the things. I mean, like, I do like the bullet, because he's got some bullet points in number 7, and one of them was ditch news apps, or at least news alerts. They are the devil, which that one I actually will agree with.
Yeah.
Ditching some of the apps, that I could do.
Mhm.
But when he's talking about taking email completely off your phone, and he talks about, well, I think it's later that he talks about how, he only checks his email once a week. Who really does that? Come on. Okay, once or twice a day, I could maybe get on board with and change my lifestyle a little bit for that. But yeah, that's a tough one. And get a flip phone, or ditch your cell phone altogether. I'm sorry, that's just a little unrealistic.
I think for some people, it should say, don't let your phone control you.
Yes,
So
and
don't always be looking at it, picking it up.
I will agree with that.
Being on it when to the point where relationships suffer.
Right.
You see the family gathering where there's 8 people in the room and everybody's on their phone.
Absolutely.
And maybe they're even texting each other, but
Right.
you're not spending time together.
Right. And that really is, I think, bottom line, you can combine those two and really kind of narrow it to what you're talking about. I agree with that completely. I mean, there's reasons that even the phone companies have come up with, okay, let's do a do not disturb time period, and I observe those faithfully. I mean, mine shut off I think it shuts off at 8 or 9 at night, and it doesn't turn back on until late in the morning, and so on purpose. Some things definitely, absolutely, I agree that you need to have stuff like that.
Yeah. And you need GPS if you're the kind that can't read a map and always get lost.
Can't even buy a map anymore.
Yeah, well, and listen, I mean, that's a lifesaver sometimes, because even on this trip, or even when Adriana goes somewhere and I know she's never been there before, I don't worry about her. She can just put it in her phone and she gets to where she's got to go.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a useful tools.
Yeah. Use your phone. Don't let it control you.
I think that's a great bottom line. And I think you have kind of 3 different levels of people here so it's like, Joy, you're one of the techiest people I know. Like, if you didn't use your phone, nothing in your house would run. I mean, everything that can be controlled.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's different. I did try, when I first read this book, I turned my phone into a dumb phone. I took down the screen so it wasn't colorful. Then we got new phones, and I've hit sort of a place. I'm going to dumb it down a little more again, things crept in, but I was kind of found somewhere in the middle. I did take my email off, and so I do only check my email, my work, my personal, I check once a day in the morning, not on weekends, Monday through Friday. And I check my work email in the morning when I get in the office, and in the afternoon before I leave the office. Mm-hmm. So I do keep that limited, but I did find when I took the email off my phone, there's times when I'm still on a work day, but I'm not necessarily in front of my computer. I'm not at home. So it became more burdensome to have it off my phone than to have it on my phone. But I did shut the notifications off. So I have the notifications now. We got new phones, and some of the notifications have crept back on, like texting. I really like that all shut off. Again, I have, like you do, I have the do not disturb from 9 at night till 9 in the morning, and I don't pick up my phone. Sabbath, our phone is off. I don't have social media on my personal phone, but my work phone, which is a cell phone, has Facebook and MeWe, because I do some Facebook Live, and it's easier to pick up the phone, but it's not on my personal phone. So I've kind of found, even on the computer, because I sit at the computer a lot of times, during the day, I see clients by Zoom, and MeWe originally was dinging in notifications. So even I had to, even though it wasn't my smartphone, I had to find out a way to close it down because it distracts me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a distraction, but I do think that there's a level for all, so that our phone is a tool. It's not running us. We're using it. It's not using us.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's something we all can examine, because even like Joy is one of the most tech savvy people that I know. And, you found things. Yes, I like my phone. I enjoy this. I'm good with it. For me, some of the technology becomes burdensome for me. I just want to throw my phone. So it's not worth it. It's easier for me to just go turn the button on somewhere, but you're good at it. So it's time saving. It works for you. But even as being a really tech savvy person, you name some things, I shut this down. I shut that off. I don't have a lot of notifications happening on my phone.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think we can all examine the smartphone. I think, honestly, we all need to. I mean, I know you guys have been on missions trips. I've been on missions trips. I mean, I've been in poverty stricken, areas, dirt floor, hot, a pot of rice on the stove, and that's all they eat all week long. And there's a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah. I think no matter who we are, we can all examine how we can dumb down our smartphones a little bit, so that, we're using them, they're not using us.
Yeah. And, again, he says in here, none of this is legalistic. These ideas are simply self-imposed guardrails to keep the trajectory of my life between the lines and on the path to life.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's not just the phone. Like I mentioned, MeWe on my computer, I have 4 different email addresses. I have 2 business ones and 2, email and texting and social media. And they're just, you cannot have a purposeful life in Christ and be babysitting all of these things.
No, absolutely. Right. I mean, he even talks about setting a time limit for social media, which, is definitely not a bad thing. Anybody with social media is prone to it is addicting, prone to getting onto it all the time. And for the longest time, I had even my Facebook app on my phone moved to a different page on my phone, so that when I first looked at my phone, it wasn't right there in the front. I've got it back now, but I'm gonna probably move it back again, because I'm once I you get those checks and balances, you're like, well, I gotta back up, I gotta go back to what I know is important and needs to be done.
Yeah, and the social media has been, and some of them are more advanced than the rest of them, have been designed after the same principles that addict people to internet pornography. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're specifically designed. That like button is, specifically designed for it. It gives us a dopamine fix.
Right.
They are designed to suck you in. It's very, very easy to get. And I like, it's a way I get to see. We live close to the grandkids, which is fun. We see them a lot, but I get to interact. I get to see their daily life on, social media, and I do things like this. This is out on MeWe. I like MeWe because MeWe is doesn't run all the algorithms and put all that advertising in front of you and stuff like that. So I like that one. But any of them can be a time suck. But so I like them. There's things I like about them, but they can really become
well, and beneficial. I mean, as you benefited even from the trip we just went on. I was able to share, and I have had so many people that, and I really didn't have the intention of this. It's just so many people have come up to me since we've been home and said, I felt like I was on the trip with you. Yes. It was great. I loved opening up, at the time of the day, whatever time of day that was, that they would open up their social media and they'd look forward to my post that morning because they'd like to see what we experienced that day. And, so it's just, again, it all comes back to what Miriam said, is it running you or are you running it?
Right. And as big a time sucker as social media is, he quotes in here staggering statistics about how much more TV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely.
And we hear people all the time talk about binging. He says, it's the only binge that's still socially acceptable.
Yeah.
But the statistics that he quoted on how long it takes somebody to watch like a 5-season series or really staggering.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really only, cripe, I think binge watching has only been maybe the last 5 or 7 years at the most.
With all the streaming.
Yeah. I mean, they really come flying in, which is kind of getting annoying because now you got to have a streaming service for,
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the cost of cable. Well, you know what? Oh, ditch cable and go to streaming. Well, then you got 18 different streaming services you got to enroll in to see what you want to see. And you're right up to the cost of cable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I although I don't think I'd do what his friend did. He says, why not just get off the crazy train? Kill your TV. I mean, if you want, literally kill it. My friend threw his out the window. I don't think I'd do that.
I would be TV-less.
Yeah.
I would do
I-
no TV.
I could see you do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I for years and years and years, I mean, now a lot of people don't have cable, but for many, 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 many years, most of my life, I've not had cable. I've never bought a television in my life. We've had television, but it's just,
Yeah.
and even that, I will tell you, we watch more TV than I would like. More TV than I think is healthy. And we
Yeah.
are not big TV, but yeah, if it wasn't, if it was, and Jim's not a big TV person,
Mhm.
but if it wasn't for Jim, I mean, I wouldn't have a TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I blame it on my dad. When you come from a dad who was a TV repairman, that's all you had in your house were TVs.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. And I'm kind of an anomaly. I don't think you have to get rid of your TV, but I do think we need to watch less TV.
Yeah.
It's like I talk about people ask me with food, can I ever eat this again? I mean, there are things we can enjoy, but we're never going to be healthy if you're going to eat the standard American diet. You're just not.
No.
Same thing with TV. Can you enjoy some healthy, it's hard to find healthy TV from a Christian perspective, but
Right.
Can we watch some enjoyable, healthy TV and be healthy? Yes. Can we consume, copious amounts of television and have a healthy walk with Christ? I don't think so.
Right. And it's getting harder and harder as time goes on.
It is. It certainly is. It certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He, of course, says keep your phone shut off in the morning for your quiet time.
Mhm.
That's super important.
Right.
Yeah. He says,
Right.
do not, here was the quote that I like this. Listen, do not let your phone set your emotional equilibrium and your news feed set your view of the world.
Mhm.
I think that's really important. I think I'd like to put, I know both of you are familiar with Intercessors for America. I'm going to put a link down below this video too. People, it's good to be informed. And walking in Christ, we need to know. We need to know what to pray for. We need to know how to vote.
Right.
We need to be informed people. But watching lots of news, I don't care which news station you watch. News is a product. The goal is to sell.
Right.
So I don't care if they tend to agree with your point of view or they don't agree with your point of view. They are there to sell. They're there to suck you in. There's different avenues to be informed. I like Miriam only allows herself one news cycle a day. I think that's very healthy. I really like Intercessors for America. I'll put a link below the video. They have their pulse. They're in DC. They are ahead of pretty much anything you're going to even hear on the news.
Mhm.
And they come at it from a prayerful, Christ-centered view. I think it's an excellent place. Matter of fact, I have the last couple of years, again, a lot of what I do is nutrition based, but we do holistic whole life. And I have a lot of people coming to me with adrenal issues and stress issues. And one of the things I've been really recommending to my clients is get out from in front of the news and get the news off your phone. And, you know, be informed, but I love Intercessors for America. So I'll put that, I'll get off my soapbox, but I will put that link below. Highly recommend it.
It is very good.
Yeah.
Very
And they
good.
give you avenues to interact and to be proactive. And, you know, we should be informed and proactive.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
but I love this. Do not let your phone set your emotional equilibrium, and your news feed set your view of the world.
Right. Right. Very true.
Yeah.
Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little ears, what you hear.
Yes.
One
Absolutely.
of the biggest principles I think, you know, that I did completely agree with, is, you know, he just talks about walk slower, and that's a literal slowing,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and it is, and it really can make all the point in the world. I found myself, especially, you know, I know I keep talking about this trip, but there's a lot of examples in there that as we're walking around, you know, Andriana, now granted, she's 2 inches taller than me and she's got longer legs and she's way up ahead of us all the time. Kevin's kind of always in the back because he is a naturally slower, relaxed, more person. And I was kind of in the middle. So that's kind of always how our stance always was, walking, doing, and what we're seeing, and the beauty that God has all around us. Slow down. And I did. And it takes practice sometimes to have, you know, that principle of just stroll, and instead of being, you know, obviously if you're on a like you guys walk fast because it's a fitness thing, that's different.
Right.
And he even says on here, all the New Yorkers are hating on me right now. In their defense, they do have somewhere to be. That's different. But when you're talking about when you're walking places, don't be in such a hurry. Don't be having to always just get there.
Right.
You know, enjoy the path.
Right. Right. That's true in the short term and in the long term. You visited too, Joy, some countries that live at a different pace than us. What did you notice in that?
There was a lot of hurry, a lot of people just getting from point A to point B. Not so much in the walking as much as in the driving. It just, and I've been in countries where they drive nuts and crazy. So it wasn't totally new for me, but it's still, I don't care how often you see it. It's just amazing the pace that they just have to get from one point A to point B in the fastest amount of time that they can, without any regard to whatever anybody else is doing. They just got to get there, and they'll get in the middle of everything. You know, it's crazy. It really is crazy, and I don't know if the big cities can slow down.
Right. Right.
So
what about when you got outside of the cities culturally? What did you see?
Different, yeah. We went from Rome to Florence, and just the difference between those two cities in their just overall general vibe of the city. They're two cities, but one, of course, is much bigger than the other. Big difference. I mean, people in Florence was much more laid back, much more, people were just more relaxed. And I think the only time people in Europe slow down is when they're eating, because it takes 2 hours for a meal. And it's everywhere else, but it seemed in Florence, everybody, the smaller areas, in the little villages we kind of visited off by the water, by the Mediterranean, was slow down, and just you get that calmer vibe. It's amazing how much of a difference it makes. Yep.
So what would it look like if the body of Christ slowed down in the midst of all this craziness? What would it look like just in our own families and communities if we just slow down?
Yeah, a lot different. It would look a lot more peaceful, a lot more calm.
Yeah,
For sure.
Quite a witness.
Yeah.
Just that alone. I'm sure people would be asking us. They'd want to know.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. He says in the book, I want to be fully present to the moment, to God, other people, work in the world, and my own soul. That's more than enough to consume my attention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just to be really present. People are, the more, it's amazing, and I don't know all the statistics on this, but we're connected. We talked about all the modes of communication now, but with all these modes of communication, all the social media, people are more isolated than ever. They just want someone to listen, to be present with them, and actually not nod, while they're doing 16 other things, or nod while they're thinking about 16 other things, just to really be present in an authentic relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Just be really heard.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. He says, my point is, one of the best ways to slow down your overall pace of life is to literally slow down your body. Force yourself to move through the world at a relaxed pace. I thought that was interesting. Force yourself to move through the world in a more relaxed pace.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Until it becomes habit.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like I'm finding, like, we've talked about, been walking through this a while, been implementing Sabbath, working on implementing some of these other things, but the root for us was we started with Sabbath. And I am noticing I have tended to be a more fast-paced person. And I am noticing, I would say just the tip of the iceberg. Let me just be fully disclosed here, but some slowing and some recognition too of when I'm not.
Yeah.
He talked about one of the first of the 4 practices was silence and solitude. He talked about take a regular day alone for silence and solitude. He recommends once a month. And he said, even for people, if you're raising children, maybe mom can take one while dad takes care of the kids. Dad can take one while mom takes care of the kids. There's ways to make it happen. But that once a month time of silence and solitude, just to really at a deep level reconnect with the Lord, reevaluate, let him bubble things up, let him, make sure our course is, if we're going to go on a trip and we're all going to leave here and drive across the country somewhere, we don't, put on our GPS at home and then shut it off, or look at the map, glance at the map and shut it off. There's checkpoints, turn here, stay here, get in this lane. And I think this once a month silence and solitude, very valuable.
Yeah. And get it on your calendar, because if you don't schedule it in there, it's not going to happen.
Well, and it goes along with his mindfulness in meditation. It just having to absorb that time of mindfulness, of just being able to. You kind of can't do that without having some solitude.
Right. Exactly. And when we use the terms like minimalism or mindfulness and in meditation, I know these words have been pirated, by different secular things, but they were Jesus practices first.
Yes, exactly.
These are Christian practices. That doesn't mean practicing them in the way that they've been secularized or, repackaged. But these were Jesus practices. Jesus went away. We're told over and over to meditate on the word morning and night, Jesus was very, very present. So these are, do not veer away from these because they've been secularized.
Right. And he even says, don't think namaste, think Psalm 1. Blessed is the one who meditates on his law day and night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very much.
He also mentions journaling. Thoughts on journaling?
I am not a journaler. I have tried. I really honestly have put a great big effort into it, and I last about 2 days or 2 incidences, and I'm like, it's just not me. I've never been a writer anyway, so that's a tough one sometimes. It definitely has a principle, and I think people that do journal and enjoy it, I envy that. I just don't.
I don't do it a lot, but the right, everyday thoughts and feelings. But if there's something that I want to remember, something God has done, something God is telling me, then I will write those things down, because who's going to remember them?
Well,
Years down the road.
yeah, it's funny that you say that now that what I just said kind of is not going to make sense for what I'm about to say, because I actually, when I'm on a big trip, I have journals of my trips, and I will literally every night before I go to bed, I'll write down what happened that day. And
Yeah.
it's been fantastic. So you would think that I would take that principle and love how I have the things to look back on all these, vacations I've taken. You'd think I would kind of transfer that into my daily life, but I don't. It's the only time I enjoy journaling. And as I look back, a lot of them, I do have, the beauty that God's given us every day, and for what we have experienced that day, and what I've gotten out of it. So it's funny.
I'm a big proponent of journaling. I love journaling. I ironically also started originally with the travel journal. When I was in 6th grade, I went on a vacation with my grandma, and she would be up every morning writing in just a little flip spiral, just those little ones that flip. And I loved it. When we got home, I had that, and I was able to make this was before scrapbooking, but my version of a scrapbook with all these journal entries in it. And it was really neat. So I started when I would travel, I would, just daily, just a couple things. And I loved it. I teach a whole course on journaling. I really believe it's a super valuable tool. I encourage my clients to journal. For those, let me just say, a journal is not a diary. It's not like, the junior high school girl diary.
Yeah.
For my clients who are less touchy-feely, I rename it. I call it
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So you can either keep a journal or you can keep a process notebook, whichever one suits your needs best. I will tell you, and now everybody who's listening, they're the same thing. But I really love them. I remember when I first started journaling, I would start a notebook and I would write a couple things, and then I wouldn't, and I'd lose it. And, a year later I'd find it. But I don't know when it actually stuck, but I love it now. I keep a spiral notebook about this big, one that's lap size. And when you open it this way, it has whatever the Lord's speaking to me. I just call it my Rhema journal. And if you turn it over the other way and open it up, it has prayer requests. So I can just keep, when people mention things to me, so I can turn it one way or the other. And when it meets in the middle, it's done. And I put a date in it, and I love them. I don't write in it every day. I write in it when the Lord speaks into me. So I'm in the Word pretty much every day, in prayer and word. I mean, it's a very, very rare occasion when I'm not. And I don't journal every day. But as the Lord speaks into me, it goes in that journal. And the Lord will work things out in me. I know in October of 2006, the Lord spoke into me, part of Isaiah 30:15, and quietness and trust will be your strength. And for 4 years, he worked, apparently I'm a slow study. For 4 years, he worked that out in me. And when I was able to go back into those journals and see that journey with him, something I'm still working on with Today's Abundant Living, he spoke into me November of 2015. So I'm still working that he, otherwise I'd lose those things. So I love them. I think I've tried before to catch something every day. I think that's flawed. God doesn't speak to us something journal worthy. Well, at least he doesn't speak to me something journal worthy every day. He may to you, I don't know. I tried at one time to categorize it, and I just write. And then I try to have these times. I wish I went every month for a time of silence and solitude. I don't, but I do go pretty regularly, periodically throughout the year. And I love to take whatever the last finished prayer journal was with me, and I go through it with a highlighter and a pen, and I mark it up for what is the Lord calling me forward to. So I love them. I'm a huge proponent of them. I think people get bogged down in the inertia of it, the what do I do with it?
Yeah.
But I think, and I did go, and not everybody's going to journal, but I think it's a powerful, the Lord speaks to us. And to capture it and to see like that, like I said, that 4-year journey with that 1/4 of a scripture, to go back, I would have never recalled all of that. To go back and to recall what he, called me to. And it's powerful.
Right.
Really powerful. So I encourage you, try a journal. Don't get all hung up on the details. Don't get hung up on every day having to write it. But I do love it.
Yeah. Good.
He says long vacations. I say amen.
Yep. I completely agree. I just had a 2.5 week one. Yeah, it really does. And it's not easy for a lot of people. It's not even easy for my husband because his work is so crazy. And, you know, I actually have to make him take vacations. Sometimes it's that bad, unfortunately, but, you know, when we can, and he's definitely open to it by all means, doesn't want to, and it works out fine. And so a lot of times we do take vacations that are longer because I want him to be able to take that time to rest and not just have a few days. Because even he talks about in here, you know, we're not just talking about those little tiny trips, you know, little weekends away. Those are great, but that's not what your vacations should really consist of.
It takes longer than that to come down.
It does. Right.
I
Right.
think one of the biggest detriments of smartphones, in my opinion, is what it's done to the vacation.
Yes.
I shut my people drive. I love to fly, but I love to do a car trip with Jim. It's just time alone in the car. And people have got, you know, you talk to people in the car, you're traveling, I want to look, I want to see. I remember Ethan, when he was living with us, he would want to play video games in the car. And I'd say, I want you to see the world.
Yeah.
When I want to see the world, I want to spend time with Jim. This is time, just the two of us in a
Right.
vehicle together. And when I go on vacation, I don't want to touch base. I mean, I love everybody. I love y'all.
Yeah.
But when I go on vacation, I want to shut off. I don't want to solve anything. I just want to shut off. When I come back, I'll love on you again.
Right.
But I see so many people that cell phone goes on vacation with them. And to me, I have different definitions of travel. There's visiting, there's sightseeing, but to me, a vacation is when all responsibility gets shut down.
Yeah.
That's a vacation to me. And if my cell phone is on, that to me, it's not available.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if work is calling.
Yeah.
A lot of people stay attached to work. Now, I love that we can travel with our work. Jim and I can get on a plane and take our computers and go down to Florida and spend time with Laura and Rob and be working.
Right.
That's different. That's not vacation. It's a lot of fun hanging out, being with them, being in Florida in January. It's wonderful to go put your toes in the beach and then come and work. But when you go away to get away, I just.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge piece.
It is.
Otherwise, why call it vacation?
Right.
It's just the same as normal life.
Yeah, it's just another location. It's life as usual in a new location.
Yeah. Yeah. I will admit, because of the nature of Kevin's work, he does have to take his laptop when we do go on vacation, but he's very good at keeping it extremely minimal, because even he knows he needs to have that time away and that, you know, bit. And even this trip, you know, he was on it very minimally. There was a couple things he had to take care of, but they didn't take very long, and he was very conscious of how quickly he was able to get it done. And so
there's that expectation there for him to be available. And I remember before smartphones, and even after smartphones, you had to have a special SIM card for your card to work when you went out of the country. Or
right.
Now our phones work everywhere.
Yeah.
I liked when our phones didn't work everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if your boss's expectation is that you're available,
you're not on vacation.
That becomes complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It does.
It does. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something. I mean, I have a little easier time. I work for myself. And so when you work for yourself, sometimes you're the hardest boss.
Yeah, right.
But at the same token, when I go on vacation, I take 3 weeks off in December every year. I take 3 weeks off in December. We're going on vacation for our 20th anniversary, and I'm going to be off work. I already have my schedule. I'm off work. So I'll just let y'all know right now, I'm off work. I love y'all. I love what I do. I'm going to be off work. I'm going to be at the beach.
Beach is where it's at, especially in December.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. He talked about simplifying food. Cook your own food and eat in. I think, Joy, you do a really good job with this. Don't you? You keep just a simple, tell us.
2 week, I have an Excel spreadsheet. I am the queen of Excel. And I keep a spreadsheet. I've been doing this, good gracious, for, well, probably since Kevin and I have been married, which along with you, it's 20 years. This year was in April. And I plan out my meals for 2 weeks. And I put down what we're going to have for each meal, dinner, not each meal of the day, but for dinners. And this really came out of more, not so much to simplify my life, but more of, I cannot stand every day coming up with, okay, what are we going to have for dinner today? What are we going to have for dinner today? And I can't stand that. I want to know. I'm a planner. So yeah, for 2 weeks, and I sit and I make the 2 week menu, and we typically have leftovers on Fridays. So I just plug in what I'm going to make each day, and then we go grocery shopping every 2 weeks on Saturday. And that's our routine. We go, Kevin, it has become Kevin's time with us that he really treasures. And over the years, because of course, when Adriana was little, obviously she had to come with us. Now it's getting a little harder now that she's 18 and she's having her own life, and she has to take the time specifically to say, okay, well, I can't go this week with you guys, but I will go, this week or whatever, however it works out. But, and it really, not only does it help our budget, with that, but it makes things a lot more simplified. Yeah.
And you have a certain number of recipes that you rotate through too, right? You're not constantly doing.
No, that's part of my process. I have 3 tabs in my Excel file. I've got the calendar itself that I plug it in, and I have a list of all the foods. I print that out first and I look through, and then I look at my calendar. Well, some nights we have things like this time of year, we have graduation parties and all sorts of things going on. So I'll put those in the calendar first, and I've got 9 meals now. I've got it. So I'll circle what I need. Yeah. And I like adding to that. It does get a little bit tedious to have the same things all the time. But I have a pretty good list, and I'm pretty good at being able to rotate them out, only having the same thing once a month versus, once a week.
Right.
And I like to add to those. Sometimes I like to get good new recipes and things, and we look for stuff. But yeah, it makes variety.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
I do something similar, but not completely, but predominantly plant-based. So a lot of times what we eat, it depends on what time of year it is and what's available. And so I don't have as much consistency with rotating the recipes through, but I have my key recipes, and I tend to open up the kitchen and I make a lot and I freeze.
Yeah.
And then I make the things that go into it. And so I know ahead of time for the week what we're going to have. But I just think you kind of have gotten it down to a real science.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot, and it's just become my lifestyle.
Yeah. Miriam, do you have any tricks? I know you cook a lot, and you're the queen of baking. She's like an artist in the kitchen with baking.
I basically have a grocery store in my garage and kitchen. And then I just figure out, I've got all the ingredients on hand. So I'm one of those, what I feel like having tonight. Then I just go to my grocery store, I pull it into the kitchen, and then I make enough to feed us for like 4 or 5 meals till we get really tired of it.
And you're good too. I mean, I marvel at you. You're working and everything else you have going on. And when something comes up with a crisis around you and people need a meal, you are bam, like you have 3 meals at their doorstep.
Yeah. And I have a few that are like really easy to make, and I always have those ingredients on hand. And then, I find them a need, then I can get it to them the next day.
Yeah, see, that's nice, because I don't have that advantage, because I do go grocery shopping strictly for the 2 weeks worth. So I don't have a lot of extra laying around. So yeah, it's funny how the 2 practices are have their advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
Right. And they both work
right
for each of you in a different way.
Right.
Like I said, we do a lot of fresh produce. So I buy a lot in bulk. We go once a year and we'll have those things, but because a lot of what we do is fresh produce, we have a big garden. So like things are starting to trickle in right now from the garden. We'll eat a ton from the garden, and then I can. And then in the winter, a lot of times it's what we can get. I may want to do this and this, but that I get to the store, that's
It's
not available.
Yeah, right.
So I do a lot of the canning and freezing and prepping what I can, and then the other things fill in. And I have my basic recipes that I rotate out, and same thing, things that can either multiple meals. I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't like leftovers, you'd die in our house.
Yeah.
We go hungry, because I call them planned overs.
Yeah. Overs.
Yeah.
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 Well, he
Well.
says these are just ideas.
Mhm.
They may not be for you. That's cool. Come up with your own list, but
Right.
come up with a list, then do
Right.
it. Because there's more to life than an increase in speed. Life is right under our noses, waiting to be enjoyed.
Mhm.
So we've shared some great ideas
Mhm.
today, and I think over the last weeks now. Again, I just encourage you, get this book. If you haven't seen the previous videos, we've really enjoyed just discussing this together and implementing. Take a look. The links will be below this video. The epilogue is really good in this book too. We're not going to do a separate week for that. We did a separate week for the prologue. The epilogue is honestly just as meaty, but covers a lot of the things we've already covered. But one of the things I really like that he says is that the end isn't silence and solitude. End isn't Sabbath. It's a restful, grateful life of ease, appreciation, wonder, and worship. And the end isn't simplicity. It's freedom and focus on what matters most. And the end isn't slowing. It's to be present to God, to people, to the moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. He says, he quotes from the Bible, and he talks about Paul says, he says, make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. Paul says we are to aim our ambition, the pent-up energy and drive that we all have at some level, at something else entirely, a quiet life.
Yeah.
Quiet life.
I do like how he does remind himself too, is he when he fails at because inevitably life is going to hurry back up on you, but he literally reminds himself, and when I do, I begin again, slow down, breathe, come back to the moment. So it's just, those are the types of things that you have to receive the good as gift, accept the hard as gift.
Yeah.
So, each moment of the day, you have to practice that. And like I said before, it becomes muscle memory, it becomes habit, but not always. Sometimes it sneaks back up on you.
Absolutely. Especially when this is so countercultural.
Right.
But because it's so countercultural, it can be such a witness. If we, really take this to heart and implement this, what a transition we'll make in our homes, in our communities, in our churches, what a witness will be in our community and the people around us. And people I'm telling you, with what I do, stress is killing people. People, are just going at a faster and faster pace. They're more and more riddled with anxiety. And to be able to be that calm place of refuge. I mean, our Lord is our calm place of refuge, and we're to be like Jesus, to be that calm place of refuge in the lives of the people around us. Talk about opening doors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're available and loving, they will come.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
If you're available and loving, they will come. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that a lot. He says at the end, how will you live? In the years to come, our world will most likely go from fast to faster, more hurried, more soulless, more vapid, deceiving and being deceived. Will you traverse that road? Will you follow the same old, tired, uncreative story of hurry and busyness and noisy, materialistic, propagandized living? Just try to add in a little Jesus as you careen through life Make it to church when you can. Pray when you find the time. Mostly just stay ahead of the wolf pack? Or will you radically alter the pace of your life to take up the easy yoke of Jesus? This book is both a question and an answer, but mostly it's an invitation from one invitee to another. Come to me, find rest for your souls. I say yes. How about you?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good
So
summation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are working on the yes. It's a work in progress.
Sure.
It's a work in progress. I have read this book multiple times. I will continue to read it multiple times. It has been life breathing into us. It's again, it's not, it's the Bible is a living word. This is not a living word, but these are practices of Jesus. And if we apprentice after Jesus, which this book does a fun
Mhm.
and a deep at the same time, is not feeling like a deep read. It's a
Yeah.
very easy to read book, but boy, to put these things into practice, how life changing.
Yeah, very much so.
Favorite thing, any last words, anything that really out of the book deeply resonated or you see as a big life changer that you want to share with the people that we've been sharing with?
I don't know if I would say life changer specifically, but I think the silence and solitude to me was the biggest impact that I would really like to continue to strengthen, in my practice.
That's huge.
For sure. It is huge. Yeah.
Mhm.
Miriam, anything that you want to?
For me, I just think it keeps always boiling down to consistent intentionality.
Mhm.
If you're not consistently intentional about something, it will likely fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
And so if this is important to us, then it always has to sort of be at the forefront.
Mhm. For sure.
Agreed. And I think I've shared, Jim and I put into practice after reading this book, Sabbath, and that's been life changing. And I was stunned when I read the chapter on simplicity. I really thought if you had asked me that I was living a pretty simplistic life, but was very convicted by that chapter. I think I mentioned a number of weeks ago, silence and solitude, something I really had in place, but there were some changes in our home, which were great changes, but just like, you have a child, it changes the dynamic. So for us, Jim and I both were working home. So I love having Jim working at home. It's a wonderful blessing. And Jim and Joy's mom had moved in 2016. Love having Jean living here. And she has her own place. She's not right in our house. She has her own place. But these were changes that affected the silence and solitude part of my day. And I didn't know what was happening at first. And then I just realized, well, things changed. So we put a chair in the guest room. Guest room has a door. Problem solved.
Right.
And I love having Jim at home. I love having Jean here. These are huge blessings, but it changed it. Just like, if you're a mom or a dad at home or, parent at home, children are a blessing, but you're going to have to create a space then out in the middle where everybody is. It's not going to work. So that was something that I had in place and I had looked at, what do I need to do to tweak it back? But the simplicity chapter was eye-opening for me. And the Sabbath has been life-giving.
Yeah.
So do you have any last things you want to share other than,
No.
It's been super fun journeying with both of you. I've enjoyed it. And all of you that have been in here with us. Again, the book is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. There'll be a link below the video where you can get the book. Also a link to all of our previous videos. We've been journeying through this for a number of weeks now. So if you've enjoyed today and you haven't seen the previous, take a look below the video. There are links there. Please like the video. It encourages us and it gets the video pushed out to other people. Love to hear your comments. How are you practicing your apprenticeship of Jesus? Are you slowing? Do you practice Sabbath? What do you do to establish your times of silence and solitude? Simplicity. But see, that was the one I almost missed. That's because it's the one that, how that goes. Simplicity. Share in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love our journeying with you. So be well, be a great apprentice of Jesus. Take care.
Bye. God bless.
Bye-bye. God bless.